All right. We're giving the thumbs up. It looks like we're live, and welcome everybody for joining us. We are live on Facebook, Belgrade SDA. For those of you who might be watching this later, because these are also being recorded and later uploaded to Prophecy Montana, YouTube, Prophecy Montana, Rumble, and also Prophecy Montana on Spotify. So tune into those. Be sure and give us a like, give us a smiley face, subscribe, all that stuff. And we just thank you so much for joining us. And we're very blessed to have you guys. We have with us my beautiful wife, Lisa Martin. And we have Ricky's back with us. Yay, Ricky's back. He's still with us. He hasn't missed a single one. I mean, even though he's had his operation, he was back like a day after his operation. That was a few weeks ago. And so thank you, Ricky, for being with us. He's a great addition to the podcast, and we wouldn't do it without him. In fact, we're just going to close the doors if he decides to walk away from us.
Whatever, you better not.
So, and of course, last but certainly not least is Bertha. She's behind the scenes pushing the buttons, and so we are so thankful to have her as well. We are especially thankful to have you guys to
Amen.
join us, and you guys are the reason why we're doing this. And so, so with that, we will get started on our lesson. We're on lesson number 10, Meekness in the Crucible. Now, remember, we're always a week ahead. So if you're watching this live right now,
let's pray online.
Yeah, we do need to pray. Let me finish the introduction here in just a sec, Lisa. But we're lesson number 10, Meekness in the Crucible. And so if you guys are watching us live right now, yeah, just remember that we're a week ahead. So anyways, with that, Lisa, go ahead and give us a little introductory prayer.
Mm-hmm. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, be with us in our minds and our souls today. Forgive us of all of our sins. Be with, I want God to be with all the people that are watching today. Be in their hearts, be in their minds. And please just send us extra angels to be by our side today.
Amen. Amen. I do that to her because she doesn't like to pray in public, let alone
I know, I saw those eyes
live on air.
Oh,
well, you know, you got to keep it interesting, right? You got to keep it interesting. So, and really that goes along with the lesson, Meekness in the Crucible. So this is about being meek. And what is the definition of being meek? The lesson actually tells us here in the beginning. So do you guys know what the definition of meekness is? Okay, so meekness is defined as enduring injury with patience and without resentment. Okay, so actually enduring injury. Now, it's hard to be meek even when your friends are kind of chiding you a little bit sometimes. I mean, you know, if your friends are giving you a hard time, sometimes it's hard to be meek around friends, let alone around enemies that are actually doing harm against you. And so how do we apply this in our daily lives is the big question today. We have a memory text that we should probably start out with as well, Matthew 5, verse 5. And if you guys, you know, ss.net is a great online, if you guys don't have a Sabbath School Quarterly, if you just go to ss.net, that's the one I use. I don't know if you can see this or not, it's quite far away, but you can actually tap onto the verses and they just pop right up. And it's basically the lesson online, and it's right at your fingertips. So it's a great place to go to, you know, if you don't have, you know, the weekly quarterly. Go ahead and read that if you would, Ricky.
Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth.
So how important is it to be meek?
Pretty important.
Yeah.
I mean, if we have earth, you know, in the balance here, I mean,
this will be paradise, right? This is going to be home, our future home. And I suppose if we want to be a part of it, we'll have to inherit it, wouldn't we?
And it's not like we're inheriting the old earth that's filthy and nasty.
Well, that's reserved for fire, so it's going to be burned up. I don't.
Exactly.
In this the quarterly in the very first page, it says, meekness of spirit can be a powerful weapon in the hands of those who are in the midst of pain and suffering. So indeed, the Crucible is a great place to learn meekness of heart for those For though our own meekness is and broken places, we can be powerful witnesses for God.
And and this word crucible keeps popping up. I mean, what does the word crucible mean? I mean, in this context here that we're reading about in the lesson, it's in trials, like when you're in tribulation, you feel like you're in the crucible, you're in the you're in that fire, you're in that heat of the moment. And I mean, how many of you guys are having trials? Probably, you guys are probably living wonderful lives with no problems at all, right? I mean, how about you, Ricky? You've never had a problem in your life, have you?
It seems like life to me is a constant battle. I mean, at work with whatever's going around me, I don't ever really feel like there's a relief, and I read this study and it's like, oh, I could have been glorifying God all these times instead of grumbling about what I'm going through, because I've grumbled a lot, and it's like, I should have just took it quiet and patiently, and not saying anything to give the Lord the glory, because he's honored that way. And I'm like, I read this, I don't know, I went through this a couple of different times, and it's like, man, I wish I would have read this before, just because so many times I could have gave God the glory. Instead, I grumbled and complained.
And we're supposed to be happy through the trials, and it's really hard to praise God for catastrophes and things that happen to afflict you, I mean,
it's hard.
really hard.
It's very hard.
Yeah, especially when people. Well, what does the Bible tell us? To pray for those who spitefully use us. Have you ever been spitefully used?
Yeah.
Like someone's actually like leveraging some kind of benefit for themselves off of you for your to your destruction. I mean, that's literally what the definition of that is. I mean, and you're supposed to pray for those people? Wait a minute. These people need to be taught a lesson. I mean, and here we are praying for them.
I know. We have to. I mean, and it don't come naturally. And I think once we start doing it, it isn't natural. It's like we have to force ourselves just because we know what the Lord wants and we trust in him, so we do it out of that's what he wants us to do. Then eventually I think the Lord will, you become perfect through practice, right?
Yeah, practice does make perfect. And especially, God equips us. And that's the thing, if you're saying that you can't do something that God is putting in front of you, you're calling God a liar, because God basically said he's not going to put anything in front of us that we can't handle.
Yeah,
I mean, it's right there in his word. Yeah. And so it might seem like you're at the brink of your breaking point, but it's at that brink. It's at that very point that you're going to grow. And that's one thing that we really have to remember and kind of internalize. So
and it's hard because we break usually. I do anyway at that point.
You got an article there.
I do. It actually starts out with an amazing fact. Tsunamis are among nature's most destructive forces. One of the deadliest ever was triggered by a 9.1 magnitude earthquake off the coast of Sumatra. That's in Indonesia. Catastrophic waves, some 100 feet high, destroyed communities in 14 countries and killed 228,000 people. Thousands on beaches who had heard the warning sirens did not flee. They were among the many who perished. More than 2,500 years ago, Belshazzar, the grandson of the most famous Babylonian king, Nebuchadnezzar, had a history of ignoring critical warnings. And like those who did not heed the sirens that warned of the tsunami, his decision costed him his life and destroyed his kingdom. Why does the story matter today? Because Belshazzar's story speaks to what will soon come upon our world, and our life depends on what you do when you hear this warning. So, during a beautiful evening, Belshazzar was celebrating with the many dignitaries in his opulent kingdom. But as joyful music played, the Medo-Persian army was was amassing, led by the king Cyrus, outside the gates of the city. Even so, Belshazzar wasn't at all concerned. The city of Babylon was fortified by impenetrable walls about 164 feet wide and 328 feet tall, according to the Greek historian Herodotus, however you say it, Herodias.
Yeah, that's what that sounds like.
Moreover, the life-giving water of Euphrates River flowed underneath the gates, providing inhabitants with endless supplies of drinking water and for growing food. Babylon was the most secure place on the earth. Thus, the proud Belshazzar fearlessly feasted. But then he came for the spoils of war. But then he called for the spoils of war that he had taken from the Jewish captives. Those precious vessels used for worship for Jehovah were now being used to toast false gods, gods of gold and silver, bronze and iron and wood and stone, found in Daniel 5:4. In doing so, Belshazzar was proclaiming that his false gods were more powerful than God of Israel. Suddenly, a bloodless hand appeared and wrote a cryptic message on the wall, but no one on the royal halls could read it except a distinguishing Jewish prophet named Daniel. He fearlessly interpreted the message of judgment against the king and his kingdom, who had neglected to heed the warning sirens. You, Belshazzar, have not humbled your heart, although you knew all this. And that same night, the Medo-Persian soldiers stormed the city. Providence opened the gate, and Cyrus's army captured the city and slew its king, just as Daniel had predicted.
And that's what pride does to you.
Well, and it goes on to say that 500 years ago, or 500 years later, a warning message was given from heaven to the prophet John, an apostle of Jesus, an exile of the Patmos island, across 7 astonishing verses in the Revelation. This is a warning, and it's to us.
Yeah, of course. Pride is the worst.
So we're warned.
It's the opposite of meekness.
Yeah, it's the total opposite. And then, I wonder if we're full of pride these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
But we hear the message, but we don't
Take it to heart.
Mm-hmm.
We hear it just like Belshazzar.
Yes.
He knew, but he never humbled himself. We know. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we have oftentimes in our lives we create these problems that then later that we consider like a crucible in our lives, you know, like these self-inflicted, you know, injuries, if you will, that then we later would consider like a trial or some kind of something that God is sending us, when in fact that like in was it Belshazzar?
Yeah, Belshazzar.
Belshazzar's problem was that he was actually through his pride and his arrogance was creating the very problem that, I mean, of course, God had to intervene as well here in this instance, but more often than not, we're creating our own difficulties.
And it's crazy, right? If he wouldn't have did that, his kingdom probably wouldn't have came to the end.
Right.
If he would have just been humbled, he'd, still be going on. Well, not still, but you know what I mean? He still would have been going on.
Yeah.
I mean, how we obey and trust and have faith in the Lord has everything to do with our life as we're living.
Yeah.
And forever. I mean, because he's lost forever now. You know what I mean? Forever. Not only in this life, but the life to come. So sad.
Exactly.
So we have in Ezekiel 24, verses 15 through 27 here. I'll go ahead and start reading that. Also, the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, behold, I take away from you the desire of your eyes with one stroke. Yet you shall neither mourn nor weep, nor shall your tears run down. I think this is in. I think the context of this is that he lost his wife, right? Elijah loses his wife, or Ezekiel loses his wife here.
Yeah, and he's not to mourn or anything about it.
Oh.
Yeah, and it actually calls him or calls her the desire of his eyes. And so sigh in silence. I'm on verse 17. Sigh in silence, make no mourning for the dead. Bind your turbine on your head and put your sandals on your feet. Do not cover your lips and do not eat man's bread of sorrow. In other words, you're going to go about life ordinarily here. We're not, don't change anything from your regular daily routine, and don't let anybody see your sorrow or your countenance. I mean, this almost goes along with how Jesus was talking to the Pharisees, how when they fast, they would put on a sad countenance and they would, they
disfigure their faces to be seen by men.
Yeah, and they would go around and they would try to, and obviously, this guy must be fasting. Look at him.
He's really religious. Yeah,
he's in all this sorrow and misery. And so, but we're instructed to do the opposite. And how does that practical in our lives today? I mean, what if we're suffering some horrendous difficulty in our life? Is that to mean that we're to not show it? I mean, how does that? I mean, I'm a little confused here.
I don't know. I know that we're supposed to bring everything to God, our complaints and our worries and all things that we may have, just because the way that we are feeling, I could have influence on Lisa. She could be already having problems in her life, and if I'm casting my problems upon her, that's just adding up on her. That's almost causing her, I don't know,
grief.
Yeah, it is causing you grief, and it's a weight that you don't need.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus says, take my yoke. You know what I mean? We give everything to him. So, I don't know. I just, I don't know. To your question, Carrie, I'm not for sure. What do you think, Lise?
Yeah.
What I think is, if your heart is able to share the prayer, if you're able to share it, praise and prayers.
Amen. Yes,
church,
definitely.
I say do it.
Amen.
If it's too raw, too sore, just get on your knees and try to put on a good face when you go to church, because you're supposed to be around like believers. Maybe that'll pep you up and help you mentally, knowing that other people go through struggles too, and they also come and through the doors and of church,
and they could see your bright face and say, "Wow," you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And you could be giving them hope, because they could be going through something else. You know what I mean? And it's
I've seen women that have lost their husbands and they still come to church. They're distraught, but they still come and they still reach out and they say, "Oh, honey, I'm okay and I love you," and I mean they still just show this.
Their love for God and their need for for one another, for
exactly
God's children.
I mean, it's not like we shouldn't share our grief with one another, because I think that's an important component in Christianity. Mm-hmm. But the other aspect of this is we shouldn't allow the world to use this as an opportunity to disgrace our God.
And that's what they're doing. They want to see us fail.
Yeah.
If they know you're a Christian, I mean, this is what I go through at work. You know what I mean? I could identify with this. I wish I would have read this, right here, like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and I kind of knew it. I knew it, but this just went to prove it to me, and it's just... Mm-hmm. So hopefully when I go back to work, I'm going to have a better attitude, and I just,
Well, it's a work in progress. I mean, obviously, we just don't get there overnight. I mean, so we have lots of failures throughout the day. We'll do good some days, and we think we're on top of it, and we're all ready for the next day, and then boom, we
fell.
Yeah. Or we'll get a phone call, that just racks our whole world. From
family member friend or whoever.
Friend, and then all of a sudden, their marriage is failing, or they got into an accident, or their kids got taken away. I mean, it could be whatever. And it just, you're like, oh, how can I help? And then you try to help. You want to help as a Christian, and then you just get involved, and then your feelings get involved as well. So.
Yeah. And there's also this other element where, people could look upon you if you're like in the eyes of the world. Now we have our church family, and that's a lot safer place to grieve to, but not always. We can't take, for granted that everybody in church is completely sanctified either. I mean, that's a big mistake a lot of people make. And a lot of people in church will, in fact, hurt you. And you have to come to that realization going into church.
They're not perfect people?
They're not. Well, hey, I've probably hurt a lot of people myself, and so.
Of course, I know.
And so you have to give other people that same leniency, that same leeway. We can't be critical. Oh, I thought they were a Christian. They're supposed to be a Christian. And here they are behaving like this. Well, here's the thing. How many times could that have been said about ourselves, and so.
So I heard from a pastor, there's this kind of like it's not true, but it was a parallel. It was like just something that was in the book, just something that they shared. Well, there was 3 men in a boat, and one guy said, yeah, I done this and that. He's talking about his problems to the other 2. And the other ones are like, wow, that's pretty bad. You just need to pray a little more. And then the other guy said, yeah, my problem is this and this and this and this. And they said, oh, that's pretty bad. I guess we'll pray for you, And they looked at the third guy in the boat, and they said,
wasn't he being quiet?
Yeah, he was quiet. And they were looking at him, and he said, so what's your problem? And the guy goes, oh, I'm a blabbermouth.
I'm a big gossip.
I'm going to go gossip. You guys got to be careful.
You got to be careful who we can't throw our pearls before the swine. And so we have to be guarded, especially in church. And that's a sad thing to say, because we want to look at everybody like they're safe, and they're not always safe. And like your point, Ricky, we're not all righteous here in church. No, church is a hospital for the
sick.
For the sick, we're all sick. And we know we're Christ's disciples if we realize our need for him, that we are sick, that we are not perfect, but we want to be healed.
We're in this hospital. We're all in this hospital together.
Yes, we need Jesus. And
where's the best place to catch a flu?
Man, probably, yeah.
Probably in the hospital, all right? That's where all the sick people go.
Supermarket.
All right, Lisa, bad answer.
Discount 5 points.
Yeah, there's 1 point discount. Okay, so where we read in Exodus 32, 1 through 14, you guys remember what happened there? Maybe we should just read it. Because this, oh, wait a minute. Is this the one I wanted?
You say Exodus 13?
Yeah. I wonder if this is the one I wanted.
Are you looking for 32?
Yeah, I clicked on it. Hang on just a second here. But at any rate.
You're looking for 32?
Yeah, 32, 1 through 14. Exodus 32, 1 through 14.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go ahead and read it, even if it wasn't what I was thinking it was.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I didn't know.
No, that's okay. You want to go ahead and read that, Ricky?
1 through 14?
Yeah, 32, 1 through 14.
All right. And when the people saw that Moses delayed, that he came down out of the mount, the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron, and said unto him, Up, make us gods, which shall go before us. For as for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we wrought not what is become of him. And Aaron said unto them, Break off the golden earrings which are in the ears of your wives and of your sons and of your daughters, and bring them unto me. And all of the people broke off the golden earrings which were in their ears, and brought them unto Aaron. And he received them as at their hand, and fashioned it with a graven tool, after he had made it a molten calf. And they said, These be thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt.
Now, these people are doing some bad things here. Now, Aaron kind of conceded to the children of Israel in this request that they had. Being the priest, what should he have done?
He should have stood by God. He knew what was right.
He should have reprimanded the people for this behavior, but he was fearing them. Feared man rather than God. Big mistake.
Big mistake.
Go ahead.
And it seems like it didn't take him long either. I mean, he was like easily done. It wasn't even.
Yeah, it didn't seem like he put up a
no
fight at
fight.
all.
It was like he came up with the ideas of, hey, take off your earrings.
Let's go make a molten calf.
Yeah, we're going to make a molten.
Well, see, he might have been thinking, and I've also thought of this. He might have been thinking, well, as long as they're worshiping something, I mean, they came right out of Egypt. I mean, how often do we make this mistake with new people that come into the church? They just came out of Egypt, and
they need faith.
They need a faith of some kind. And
don't talk about anything that in the events that are going to happen.
And maybe we can make them this golden calf, and we can kind of persuade them over time to worship the one true God. Because we don't want to be too harsh with these people after all. I mean, is that sometimes an attitude that maybe we have is in our church as well? I mean, you want to be acceptable. I mean, you want to accept people. You want to
compromise. Is that what you're saying? We should compromise?
No,
I know you're not saying that.
Yeah, no.
But that's what we're thinking.
Exactly.
That's what the people do. That's what the churches do. They compromise the truth. They compromise thinking, I don't know, that some good may come out of it, when God is very clear that nothing ever good comes out of compromise.
Yeah, if I reprimand these people, I'm going to drive them right out the doors.
Yeah.
When in fact, sometimes reprimandation
is what they needed.
Might be just what they needed.
It's exactly what they needed. That's what the Lord says.
And the milk of the word is for so long, and it's almost like the people that are preventing this are lacking in faith, that they don't even believe there's a righteous God.
That's exactly. They don't believe in his power. They're like, oh, well, this don't make sense to me. So
they think it's up to them to do the transformation. It's not up to them. God has a transformative power, and it's up to us to be faithful and to give a good, clean image of who God is.
And that's it. And then he's going to work it. He's going to work it however it is. I mean, we can't see that guy's thoughts. We can't see the conversations he's had in his mind with God. Well, if you really are God, or anything like that. But we can trust the Lord, and we can trust his word and just have faith.
Lisa, something popped up in my mind. Remember when you were trying to quit drinking, and you were looking for something in the Bible that condemned the use of alcohol? She was actually looking for this. And so the Jehovah's Witnesses were coming by.
You're not supposed to mention names.
And well, no, bless their heart. I mean, these people, I'm not going to say anything disparaging, but they were coming over to the house, and they were trying to teach her, and they were actually giving her verses in the Bible that seemed to support the consumption of alcohol. And it was the exact opposite of what she was looking for. And she was looking for God to condemn it and say, this is wrong. And then that would give her a direction to walk in, because she knew intuitively it was wrong.
She knew.
Yeah.
I did.
But that's a bummer deal.
And they were just saying, well, people that can handle it can drink. And they were saying that Jesus was made wine. This is the famous line.
I know that everyone uses. They don't understand that it wasn't fermented. Yeah. That it was more or less grape juice. It was pure. It was.
We saved the best for last.
I know. It's
and see that. But that goes along with what you're saying. We don't know their heart. We don't know what they're searching. They didn't know what she was searching for. She was searching for truth. She wanted to be.
And they thought they were giving her what she wanted.
Yeah.
Exactly. They were speaking smooth words to try to win her over.
That is perfect, man. That was a perfect example.
And so the Adventist church I would go, because I'm married to an Adventist. But I wasn't converted.
I wasn't an Adventist then. I was a bad Adventist.
A bad Adventist.
But we went. And but I think the most pronounced, the set in my mind, was in Paso Robles, California. I went and Tom Brink, I believe that's his name. I don't know if I'm supposed to use names, but he is such a lovely person. Him and his wife and his kids. And he almost broke his leg jumping over the pews trying to go back to me or get back to me, because when praise and prayer came, I said, yes, I'd like to quit drinking. And
right when you said that, she broke down crying.
And
like,
I was embarrassed.
It was like this super awkward, like cringy moment. But then Tom, like, he just ran over there and just embraced her and threw this big hug on her.
Yeah.
Which was exactly what she needed.
And it is these people. And that's why I'm saying people can bring their problems to church, but they just got to be careful. I wasn't careful. I was waiting for a response, and I got that response.
And God had your back on that one.
Yeah, my back.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think I know the church as well, but isn't it the outside world that we're really supposed to be setting the example for to get them?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and the church too. I mean, because
the church too.
Because there's people coming into the church and they have serious problems.
Yeah.
And they're looking for guidance. They're looking for some kind of direction, some kind of something they can hang on. I know I was. Oh, yeah, she mentions I was an Adventist. Well, yeah, sure, I was born and raised in the Adventist church. I did not know God. I did not know Jesus because...
You didn't have that relationship.
I didn't have a relationship. And so...
You knew the truth, but
yeah,
that just goes to show you how important the relationship is. I mean, the truth means nothing without the relationship with the Lord.
Yeah, and to me, the relationship is very simple. Okay, so because I have had a lot of time to think about this in my Christian walk, and the relationship basically is this. God says something. If you try God at his word, you've just learned something about God and his faithfulness. And the more that you try God and his word, like if he says, do thus and thus, if you do thus and thus, you'll see like the rewards for it. You'll see God's working, his hand
and you'll see
revealed.
God's character. You know what I mean? God is revealing his character to us, through us. And that's what I see anyway. I mean, all this meekness, isn't God meek? And lowly of heart. And he's trying to endow us with his character.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got the meekness of anything I can imagine, waiting and watching us sin over and over again and just waiting patiently.
Oh, it has to be ripping them apart.
Yeah.
I mean, he loves us so much, and we don't understand. We think, it's just a sin, that's one sin, it ain't that bad a sin.
It's like that when we're
but
watching.
It nailed Jesus to the cross. I mean, eating a fruit, pronounced the death penalty on Adam and Eve and the whole human race, over eating a fruit. I mean, that's how dangerous sin is.
Yeah.
No matter how little we think or minor it might be.
Mm-hmm. That was a boundary that they crossed. And it's like us. I mean, God made us in his image to have, his same image like we do when we have children. And we're watching them sin, it hurts us. Yeah. He's watching a lot of us, and it's hurting him. I mean, I couldn't imagine. I have 3 children. He's got millions of children, and he's watching them make the wrong decisions.
And he loves them. He loves them. He loves the lost.
Yes.
All heaven does. I mean, they're doing everything in their power to call us back, to bring us to our senses, and it's just so sad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like you said, the eating of the fruit, she saw that fruit was good to eat. She saw it was pleasant to the eyes. There was nothing about it that was offensive or bad on the surface.
Yeah. How could it?
But it was just, that fly is just buzzing all around all of us. It won't leave us alone.
It's kind of like flies.
Well, I watched a sermon, and it was the boundary. It was a boundary. The fruit was never the poisonous apple. It was the boundary that he set, that she crossed, and Satan knew. So the fruit.
Well,
was
yeah.
a boundary line.
So you could say the fruit was irrelevant, right? I mean, But, that's not always entirely
it.
true either, because
He said not eat the fruit.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a boundary.
there
line.
was something about
Of
that
course, there
fruit.
was a boundary. But
There was something about that fruit that completely wrecked him. I mean,
yeah, they gave him the knowledge of good and evil.
yeah.
I mean,
that was-
and we didn't need to have that knowledge. We could have had all good without knowing any evil. Wouldn't that have been awesome?
and then here we jump over back and forth over the boundary lines all the time,
Continuously.
step
yeah.
on it. And
So,
but, back to this.
yeah, let's read a few more verses on. So we're on verse 5. Lisa, if you want to read like 5, 6, 7.
And then Aaron saw it. He built an altar before it, and Aaron made proclamation and said, "Tomorrow is a feast to the Lord." And they rose up early on the morrow and offered burnt offerings and brought peace offerings, and the people sat down to eat, to drink, and they rose up to play. And the Lord said unto Moses, Go get thee down, for thy people, which thou broughtest out of the land of Egypt, have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them. They have made them a molten calf. They have worshipped it, and have sacrificed thereunto, and said, These be thy gods, O Israel, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt.
Yeah. And I'm going to read number 9. And the Lord said unto Moses, I have seen this people, and indeed it is a stiff-necked people. Now therefore let me alone, that my wrath may burn hot against them, and I may consume them, and I will make of you a great nation. Oh, shoot, let's just read the rest.
Yeah, you might as well. I mean, because that's going to be...
Okay, then Moses pleaded with the Lord his God and said, Lord, why does your wrath burn hot against your people, whom you have brought out of the land of Egypt with great power and with a mighty hand? Why should the Egyptians speak and say, He brought them out to harm them, to kill them in the mountains, and to consume them from the face of the earth? Turn from your fierce wrath and relent from this harm to your people. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, your servants, to whom you swore by yourself, and said to them, I will multiply your descendants as the stars of heaven, and all of this land that I have spoken of I will give to your descendants, and they shall inherit it forever. So the Lord relented from the harm which he said he would do to his people. Now, in the lesson it says that this was a test to Moses. Was it more than a test? Did God really mean what he said? What if Moses would have said, yeah, you're right, Lord. You're more wise than I am. I can see now that these people are completely
helpless. There's no hope for
They're
them.
goners. They're goners. I mean, in fact, they were goners, actually, because God didn't even let them enter the promised land. And so these were the very same people that he wanted to destroy right then and there. Would God have destroyed them had Moses relented?
Probably.
Yeah,
Oh,
most
I
likely.
absolutely think God doesn't mince words. He doesn't play around with this type of stuff. When God says he's going to do something, he's going to do it.
And now Moses is pleading for him.
Yeah, and so Moses is pleading on his behalf, but this is an interesting interaction between God and Moses, because Moses was able to turn the wrath of God's hand, a righteous wrath, by the way. This wasn't a hasty.
No, they deserved it. They were going to get what they deserved. There's no doubt about it.
He's like, blot my name out of the book. Blot my name out. Don't blot them out.
That's love, and that's, gosh, for a fallen world, for the ones that hate them. I mean, look at what the people did to Moses. He didn't have a restful time. They just complained about him. They did little coups, to go against him.
And then it's interesting, all this trouble they put upon Moses.
I know.
And all this grief they put upon him, and he was so patient, and he was so understanding, and he pleaded to God on their behalf.
And even going as far as saying, blot my name out of your book. I mean, is that huge or what?
Oh, it's paramount in this story of Christ versus Satan, of the two characters that we're witnessing here. I mean, Christ literally is interceding on behalf of mankind. This is exactly what Jesus did. He said, blot my name from the book, but do not destroy them.
No, that's exactly
take
what
me. I'm the sacrifice. Take me instead.
Jesus was. I mean, Moses was. Yeah.
That type of Christ.
Yep.
Moses is not God. He's not
No, but he's a type. He was a type. There's many types in the Bible.
He had the character of Christ, 100%.
And
And this is what we're trying to acquire as well.
And then this is what God said. He says, "For I am a jealous God. I want you to worship me. Have no other gods before thee." You know, and he is jealous. And we do know that. We do know that and the reasons of what's coming, the events that are coming. And we know he's a jealous God.
Well, what would you do if your children that you bore and all that, and and all of a sudden your next door neighbor or whatever is their mom? They love her because she did everything for them.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what we're doing to the Lord. He has done everything for us. The children of Israel many, many, many times. I mean, including that time. God has did everything, but yet they're so willing to give the credit to something else, to someone else.
Yeah, can you imagine telling Junior to eat your veggies, son? It's going to make you grow up to be strong and healthy. Yeah, but Susie, the next door neighbor's got pie, and we're going to go eat that instead. So bye-bye.
Yeah.
She's got ice cream and candy. So, yeah. And by the way, she wants us to call her mommy from now on.
Well, yeah, I would just hurt that. That's just say for 18 years you changed the diapers, of Clancy or whatever, and you did all this for him and helping him to grow up to be a young man. As soon as he's a young man, he's given your neighbor or someone your enemy, someone you don't like at all.
The credit.
Yeah, all the credit. Saying, look at what she did for me. She taught me to ride this bicycle. She changed my diapers when I was a baby. Wouldn't that just kill you?
Well, it does. It
does.
It does come back to us because then when you have kids that want to do something wrong, then they go off and do it, and then there's consequences, and then they come back and tell you about it.
Then they want you to fix the consequences.
They're complaining.
Right.
Why did this happen?
Yeah.
Get me out of it.
This was Joseph. We were doing the last quarterly. Joseph and his descendants in Egypt arose a wonderful people. These are the people. And then Moses takes them out in the great Exodus. And there is just no hint in any of these people. I mean, literally all of them perished, except for a very few that crossed over into the promised land. And of course, their kids. It just had to be retrained all over again.
And something that's brought up a lot nowadays, especially nowadays, is this idea of dispensationalism. I want to bring this up and talk about it just for a second. You guys know what the dispensationalism means? Mm-mm. It's that God treats different people differently, and especially the Jews, that he has like this special people.
So there's a special people where he favors and the other ones don't matter. Oh.
Exactly. And so the idea that God does this is not found in the Bible. There are some texts that people use to support this idea, and what you were just saying about this bloodline, and literally though, that bloodline was really a nasty bloodline, because if you remember what the brothers did to Joseph. Now these were the same brothers that all the rest of the children of Israel came out of.
They repented though.
But the difference is those boys, their DNA in them was wicked DNA. Mm-hmm. But they gave their lives to Christ. They gave their life to God, and they gave it to service of God, and they repented of their evil. That made the difference. But their DNA as a man,
their traits were
passed forward.
And they were evil. Yeah,
they were evil. And so we've inherited these traits.
Yeah, evil traits.
And we've all inherited them, and we all are doomed with these traits. And these came all the way back to our father Adam. I don't care what color you are. Your father's Adam.
All right.
And your father was Noah or one of the three sons and their wives. These are our descendants. And we have this tarnished this tarnished
6,000 years of sin.
Yeah.
Very tarnished.
But the difference is God has promised that he's gonna transform us. And through this transformative power, he's going to put us in the crucible, if you will.
Yes, that's how we have to go through.
Well,
if Christ did, and he's our example, right?
I think Joseph's brothers were in a crucible because in their mind, I think they were shackled and in prison in their mind, seeing their dad mourn the way he did. And I think
Oh yeah, definitely. They were.
I think they really, really, really felt as though they shouldn't have done that.
Oh yeah, you think?
And
I think
then-
as soon as they see it, they're like, "What did we do?"
And then in years,
that would have been
years,
torture, horrible
Well,
torture.
I don't know how many years, 30 years, 20 years, something like that. I don't remember
About
the years.
25 or so.
All of a sudden,
20.
they come and then they discover him. Boy, they were happy. And they felt really repented for what they did.
Probably until
They were feared, and then they repented.
Then can you imagine their trip back to Dad? What are we going to tell Dad? Oh no! Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Yeah, horrible.
Especially when he took Benjamin.
But I think.
Well, I mean, with Joseph, your son Joseph's alive. We sold him into slavery.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
threw him into Julia. We forgot to tell
Dad.
you that.
Yeah.
Oh
so
my
there's this-
goodness! Oh,
Yeah.
I really do think when people do bad things, if they repent to the person they hurt, even though that person accepts it, they should accept it. If they're a Christian in their heart, they should accept it. Once they accept it, they should let it go. They should really let it go, like God does for us.
Well, I think the relationship in the end is even
And,
stronger because now you're more careful with that person.
yeah.
If you've offended somebody or
keep
they've
an eye on
offended
it.
you,
Oh, yeah.
and you have like some major conflict that
Mm-hmm.
you've been through, and now you guys have mended that conflict, you're going to be a lot more careful with your future dealings. And that's just,
Yeah.
some of my best friends I've had some of the hardest times with. I mean, I've been through like, I guess the Crucible with some of my very best friends, and they've done things to me, and I've done things to them, and each time there's this controversy between us, our relationship gets a little stronger. And my wife and I, now we've never had any kind of conflict, have we?
No.
Our life has been just peachy keen, just merry as can be,
Marriage life.
Yeah, whatever. I know better than that. I've been over at their house.
Everything's broken. No, I was kidding.
I am just kidding.
Yeah, well, we're past the worst of it, thank
Yeah.
God. But I mean, we've been through some real troubles, and but we've been stronger because we've gotten past it and through it. And this is that kind of dynamic that God wants to pass on to His people. And so He puts us in the crucible. He surrounds us with people with like problems, with problems we've never seen before, with everything imaginable. And so the idea is to help us to be able to deal with other humans, and which in turn helps us to deal with our own demons and our own self, because the biggest enemy is self, really. Because if we're being offended by, like if Ricky said something that offended me, like it's not Ricky's problem that I got offended, it's my fault, right? I mean, doesn't that make sense? How come my behavior was modified because of something that he said?
Yeah.
Why should we? But this is what the world teaches us. Hey, if this guy offends you, you need to go out and you need to get revenge. You need to exact some kind of
An eye for an eye.
which is used all incorrectly.
Yeah.
But what we should be saying is, Lord, thank you that I could share in you, partake in your, I don't know, in His crucible, because His crucible. He had a crucible all of his life, went to the cross. Satan was continuously after him, trying to take him out in every different way, shape, and form. And I don't know, I just be grateful and thankful that we get to share.
Yeah.
I mean, not only as human beings that Jesus is looking at, that he's wanting to be for him and wanting to be with him in heaven. He has a lot of fallen angels too that he lost. I forget how many angels that sat by his side that he lost.
Well,
A third of the angels, anyway.
however many
Yeah.
a third was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
And there it says thousands, 10,000s upon
10,000s.
thousands and thousands of thousands will be coming with Jesus. I mean, when He returns. So
there's a lot of angels.
yeah, there's a lot of angels.
His heart's probably
Wow. An hour goes by fast. We didn't hardly get through the lesson, but that's okay, because that gives you guys a lot more to go through as well on your own. And Bertha says we are at the 48-minute mark, actually, so we got a few more minutes here. Maybe we'll get through, let me see, loving those who hurt us. Had we covered that already? Matthew 5, 43 and
have.
48. So you've heard that it was said, ye shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you. Now, we were talking about this earlier, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to hit the more button on here to read the rest of this. But verse 45, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven, for he makes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the just and the unjust. Now, this is good news because we were all unjust at one time, and we were enjoying the benefits of Christ. What, are we supposed to be suddenly become a Christian and all of our evil enemies are just supposed to fall at our sides, who we once were at one time? I mean, we were just like them.
All right.
So if that were true and that were to take place, and we wouldn't have had a very good time of it ourselves.
No.
You know, we should have been punished for our deeds.
God has mercy, and I don't know, that's exactly it. He takes no pleasure in the death of the wicked. He don't want the wicked to die. He don't want them to go to hell. He wants them to turn. Just like
So we have neighbors in just a small cosmo of where we're at. We're out of town, but we have horses that'll eat your garden, and we're garden people. And then we have we join state land, so we have all their cattle that's being
We have
ran.
cows that'll eat the garden. We
So the
have
cows
dogs
are in
that'll
our
eat
yard.
the chickens.
So now we have the dogs that will kill my dogs, but like I said, eat our chickens. So we put a fence all the way around, just to keep good with our neighbors, But yeah, it's hard because even if you are walking with God and you have your neighbors and they're growing marijuana or something, like it's happening, like if that ever happens, they're not going to like you because you're a goody two-shoe.
You're rebuked to the very lifestyle that they're living.
Yeah, I mean, so it's really hard what Jesus is asking here. It's very hard.
Yeah, because in verse 46 it goes on to say, for if you love those who love you, and what reward have you? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? I mean, you can go and pretty much find anybody that practices that. I mean, they love the people that love them, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
And if you greet your brethren only, what do you do more than others? Do not even the tax collectors do so? Man, the tax collectors must have been bad people. We were talking about tax collectors on that last podcast. Check it out. The one before this one, the 87,000 new IRS agents. So the bad tax collector word is going to pop up again. Anyways, therefore ye shall be perfect just as your Father in heaven is perfect. So is it possible to be perfect?
Well, Christ says it is, right? He says be perfect.
You'd be a liar if you didn't agree with them, right?
Right. Then didn't he tell Mary to go on and sin no more?
He sure did. She did, in fact, go and sin, but then she came back and she repented again. But how many times does a righteous man rises up again?
7, but I'm thinking 7 times 70. I mean, that's just the way the Lord is, because I know I fell way more than 7 times,
but he gives us the same command each time that we walk away, huh?
Yeah.
Go and sin no more. This is the life of the Christian. We go through this process over and over and over and over again. Every time that we say our prayers and we ask for forgiveness, God will say, go and sin no more. Mm-hmm. We are at that point in life. What's the legal terminology? Justification. We've been justified. Now we're in our process of sanctification. And this crucible that we go through each and every day sanctifies us. It brings about a change in our heart for the better, because it shows us the wickedness of ourselves. Because when we're trying to do good and an opposition rises up against us and then we fail, we have to fall to our knees and say, God, I've fallen again. I've failed again. What possibly can I do more that I can pass this trial? And you strengthen your relationship with God. Mm-hmm. You're mending that brokenness inside you. You're helping others at the same time, because if you're able to get
it's a win-win-win situation.
It's just nothing but winning. Just stay on that path and stay on that. Don't be discouraged. It's a process, and it takes time to cleanse this old self, this old man. The old man, this old zombie that keeps trying to rise up out of the grave. I mean, zombies are a big deal right now, right? We're all in for the zombie apocalypse. I got some news for people, man. We're in a zombie apocalypse right now. The old man's constantly rising up out of the grave.
Continuously. Yeah, that's a pretty good point.
Mm-hmm. I watched this program on on TV, on YouTube, and it's about this about these tragic things that happen, or sometimes uncontrollable things that happen to people that passed away, and all of it is back in the 1900s or 1800s or 1700s. But anyways, I was watching one last night, and it was about the woman in red. And what they did is they had these cast iron, back then it was expensive, caskets, and they'd fill them up full of like alcohol. And there was this beautiful woman. They don't know her name, but everyone, I think there was this astronomical amount of people that wanted to see her. She was really pale. She had dark hair, and her eyes were closed. And they put a little bit of makeup on her face, which I don't think lasted because they have her in alcohol. But she was just stunning, and they put her in a red dress, and they put her in this. So all you could see is her face.
Was that to preserve her or something?
That was to preserve her.
Okay.
But everyone wanted to come see her, and I forget the number of people that wanted to see her, but
so the idea is to like keep them like
youthful
and unblemished.
Yeah.
Through this solution. So, yeah, but I mean that's just preserving. I mean that's just trying to do something that God can do
forever. I mean we're going to live forever.
Right? Yeah.
If we practice and we learn.
Yeah.
And we're willing to listen and be taught.
Yeah. So, okay. I guess we're going to wrap this up now. Let's. I just ran across this verse. This is a good one. Now, this will be like a parting verse here. It's 1 Peter 2, 18 through 25. Let's check this one out real quick. Good advice to all of us. Servants, be submissive to your masters with all fear, not only to the good and gentle, but also to the harsh. Now, the word servant and master here could also be supplanted employee, employer, right? It's the same kind of relationship. For this is commendable if because of conscience toward God one endures grief, suffering wrongfully. For what credit is it if when you are beaten for your faults, you take it patiently? But when you do good and suffer, if ye take it patiently, this is commendable for God, before God. I'm getting tongue twisted. For to this you were called, because Christ also suffered for us, leaving us an example that you should follow his steps. All right, so that's a good one, isn't it, guys? So with that, hey, we're going to say goodbye to you guys. But before we sign off, we're going to ask that you guys hit that like button, subscribe, give us a smiley face. Join us on Facebook every Sabbath at 9 o'clock Mountain Time here on the Belgrade Seventh-day Adventist page. Afterwards, these are being recorded also, so they're going to be uploaded to Prophecy Montana on YouTube, Prophecy Montana on Rumble, and, of course, Spotify as well. Something I haven't mentioned before, if you guys want to contact us, you can do so through the Belgrade Seventh-day Adventist page. You can also email us at prophecymontana@gmail.com. One of these days, we're going to have a giveaway. We should have a giveaway. Maybe we'll find something next Sabbath. You guys want to tune in for that? We'll have a giveaway for you guys. If you guys email us, we'll be happy to send you we'll probably have a book or something, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Or a pamphlet or something along those lines. And so, hey, thank you so much for watching. You guys, again, are the reason why we do all this. Keep us in your prayers. We're constantly under attack by the Satan. I mean, we talked before these programs even begin about all the things that are, all the different ways the devil's trying to intervene and divide this little podcast that we have going. So, and it is growing thanks to you guys, and we're just so thankful to have you joining us. And with that, we'll say goodbye.
Bye.